Welcome to the Sega Lounge, where we celebrate our love for all things Sega, including the games, the music, and the community. I'm your host, KC. Join me as I talk to different guests and learn more about their projects and passion for Sega. Hello and welcome to the Sega Lounge, a podcast that is all about Sega in all of its forms, the music, the games, the community, and all things in between. This is episode 255. My God. I'm your host, KC, and this week, our show is about an individual, and what an individual it is. And to help me talk about this individual, I have another individual with me, right? It's the host of Radio Sega's Individual, the individual known as Enja Hamman. Hello. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, you absolutely did pronounce it correctly, so I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I'm proud of myself.
And I'm also proud of you for managing to do episode, did you say 225?
255.
255.
Too many.
Yeah, it's in 2025, but you did it on 5/5/2025.
See? Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, we're recording on 5/5/25. That's true. So is it good omens or something like that? I don't know.
We'll believe in them for the sake of this episode.
Enja Hamman, the person who, when I thought about this episode, which, by the way, for people listening in, is about the individual known as Hiro, or Hiroshi Miyauchi, Hiroshi Kawaguchi, a man with many names. But the first person that came to mind when I thought of I need to record an episode to talk about this amazing Sega musician, the first person was you. I thought, I need to get Enja on the show. We need to discuss this man's music and his legacy because, and let's frame this for people listening in, people who might not be aware. So Sega and Hiro himself, we will talk about a little bit during the show, shared that he got an appreciation letter from Sega in time for his retirement, right? And so I thought, oh my God, this is the perfect time to talk about one of my favorite, or probably my favorite Sega musician. However, he also mentioned that he's not really retiring per se. So he's working in his second form at Sega. I don't know, maybe you know this. Is it something like was something lost in translation here?
No, I would say he's a bit of a quirky guy in the way that he talks a little bit vaguely about stuff and sort of expects you to know what he's talking about. But this is. Yeah, I eventually did manage to figure it out thanks to a person who I sort of collaborate with at VGMDB, who's also an English teacher in Japan. I'd say the general concept of this form of retirement is that technically the age at which Japanese people retire nowadays has been bumped up to 65. That's when the companies have to let them go and start giving them retirement pay. But a lot of companies, they still hold the old 60 as sort of the day to get retired. The day to get retired.
Yeah, the age, yeah.
The age to get retired. And then they sort of make a whole big thing out of it. And then for like the next 5 years, you can, if you'd like, you can rejoin the company. We won't make a big hassle out of it, and we'll still pay you the same, but you don't have to do as much work. So your second form is sort of like a half job, I suppose. It's just, you could say. Now he's working part time.
Yeah, part time. Okay.
Yeah, let's say that.
That makes sense.
I'd like to imagine all the part-time workers can look up to Hiro now.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's nice. It's nice that he got a little letter, or not a little, sounds like, or it looks like very official and very, I have no idea what it says because I should have looked it up, but you probably do know what this says. No,
I didn't read it.
no. Okay,
I feel like I know
same.
what it says. Yeah, because I've seen. I have a feeling, even though it looks so fancy, I think it's a little copy pasted because I've seen the old
Probably,
version that Masaru Setsumaru got when he was like had like 10 years under his belt, and I think he mentioned that everyone just kind of gets a copy paste version,
probably. Yeah,
even though it looks like it, like the president is speaking directly to you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It
Fortunately, they
probably
did at least change
says,
that. Hmm?
probably just
Yeah.
says like, "Thank you so much for your service" or something. Yeah,
Yeah. At least they
yeah,
changed the name of the president.
yeah. Imagine like copying and pasting and not changing, not updating the version of the letter they give to people.
Oh, that would be very embarrassing.
Very embarrassing. Yeah. And like Hero is not happy there. He's like, see what they did? See what they gave me? They didn't even change the name of the president.
He's
For
holding it up
shame.
like a wanted poster
Yeah.
or a missing poster, even.
Awesome. So we're going to talk about Hero. And for people who are not very familiar with Hiro or Hiroshi Kawaguchi, we'll talk a little bit about him. But before that, Enya, it's your first time on the show. And I want to know a little bit more about you in terms of like as a Sega fan and as a music fan and a music connoisseur and a connoisseur of both of Sega music, perhaps. That's where both things intersect, I believe. So first of all, first how did you first know about Sega, learn about Sega and Sega games?
As I remember it, like the first exposure I probably had with Sega would have been like around 2007 ish, but not really knowing about it as being Sega. Like I remember seeing when I was at a Toys R Us, I saw like on the screens they were playing Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, so because of course that was relevant at the time, and like that was one of the first times I ever saw Sonic was him up against Mario at the Olympics. And
Nice.
I think one of the first Sega games I actually played would have been Universe at War, which I know it wasn't developed by Sega, but they did exclusively publish it. And I think it was supposed to like launch a bit of a franchise, but sort of didn't end up happening. I was very big into real time strategy games at the time, so
Mm,
that's how I
okay.
would have known about something relatively obscure, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
And
No, please keep going. Yeah.
yeah. I think the very first time that I had like sort of a relatively formal introduction to Sega was a video by the J-Wits, who I was watching at the time because I was interested in Pokemon, and he
Mm,
primarily did Pokemon related videos. But he had a video about his top 10 Sega Genesis games. So that was the first time I learned about things like Echo the Dolphin and Gunstar Heroes, Shinobi 3. Wow, that was a lot. Oh, even the X-Men game was mentioned on that.
okay.
Yo,
Nice.
yo. But at some point I ended up playing most of those since they were like the things that I knew existed and were like well regarded at least by the someone I trusted. And then I think I was fairly absent from Sega, I suppose, for quite a lot of my childhood until sometime early on in high school when a friend of mine started like really introducing me to Sonic music. I remember he was a real big fan of the music for Metal Harbor in Sonic Adventure 2.
Same.
Yeah,
Same. Yeah.
yeah. And then that sort of began a relationship between the two of us and another friend of ours where we'd sort of find new video game music to share with each other. So I ended up introducing them to Jet Set Radio Future and to Nights into Dreams and Space Channel 5, thanks to Sonic and All Stars Racing Transformed, where I sort of learned what were like the Sega games to introduce people to,
Hmm.
and and then sort of delving into them, like just initially downloading the music, and then eventually, I suppose, trying to find out more of the about the games, but also I don't exactly have a lot of the consoles that a lot of Sega games are played on, and with PC gaming, I mostly just I mostly had the games that my mom would have picked out for me. So ended up not really having a lot of Sega games to play. But I think gradually I ended up just wanting to at least learn more, like do something with the the yearning that I had for information. Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
That's nice. So
that would have
it started with the music then, right?
absolutely, yeah. It's kind of. I think what turned me on to like loving video game music outside of just knowledge of having played a lot of video games was the Super Smash Brothers series,
Mm,
because that had sort of a had it more prominently showed its music as something to be acknowledged by itself, as opposed to just being background music, like
yeah.
how it had some more detailed sound tests, and there were all these videos on YouTube had that were uploading the songs and having these uh, cool video artworks uh, incorporated the characters, and even like some of the assist trophies in that series,
Yeah.
and sort of connecting them. And
And they even when they announced characters, they sometimes also announced soundtrack or tracks that were in the game and who composed them. They invited people from other companies to remix some well-known tracks from other series and stuff. So they made a big deal out of it as well, right? So that was part of it, I'm sure.
yeah, absolutely. I do actually remember reading on the Smash Brothers Dojo, which was Super Smash Brothers Brawl's website, something about how it was like also the ultimate crossover of video game musicians,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
nowadays a lot of that same, I guess, roster of mostly freelance musicians you sort of see in all these games, like even Tunism had a lot of those same composers, and Sin Chronicle had a lot of the same composers. Kid Icarus Uprising also did, having been made by the same director as the Super Smash Brothers games, Masahiro Sakurai.
Yeah.
That that take just saying that name takes me back to
Takes
a school presentation I had, where they tasked us to talk about like a celebrity, and
Okay.
that was the guy I ended up choosing to talk about.
Not a bad
Yeah.
guy. Not a bad guy to choose. Not a bad celebrity to choose. Did any?
In
Did
retrospect,
anyone else know about Sakurai?
no, a lot of people made fun of me for over pronouncing the Japanese name.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't remember any of the other celebrities, so they were very
there,
forgettable.
there. Yeah. You guys were wrong. Yeah. I chose the right one. Yeah.
Yeah, too timely, too timely.
Yeah. Excellent. And so you ended up getting introduced, perhaps. I don't know. Finding Radio Sega. I don't know how that happened. Would you like to tell us about it?
That would have been in 2019, thanks to Hideki Naganuma.
Mm,
I was fairly new to Twitter, and he was one of my first follows. And I don't remember why he was talking about Radio Sega at the time. I know, of course, he's sort of lightly affiliated with the station, since we've got a bumper of his voice. But
yeah. He
yeah,
recorded that for us.
that's so fun to hear every now and then. And oh, Radio Sega was also the start of me joining Discord, because it was like the first time I've really seen like a Discord banner to get more involved in the shows. And it was one of the first times I'd heard like someone who wasn't in the same room as me mention my name, because of course, like the first shows that I heard were Hidden Palace and Saturday Night Sega. So that was super fun to have that experience and start sticking around.
Mhm.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and you did. So it's been a while, and you're now part of staff and also a show host. So for people not familiar with your work around Radio Sega, you are one of our playlist managers. I would say the playlist manager, probably. But you do all of our mostly weekly updates to the playlist, add stuff, work on already available stuff. Remaster them a little bit in some way, and also you're the show host or the host of Individual, which is all about Sega music related individuals. So who better to have on this show to talk about one of our favorite Sega music individuals, Hiroshi Kawaguchi, right?
Yeah, yeah. Who actually has also always for the 3 seasons or series of Individual that we've had, he's always been the first episode. Each of them a sequential sequel to the last, and of
Mhm.
course an improvement and improvement every time, and always talking about narrower and narrower stretches of years. As I ended up,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
won't say I added filler, but I did go a little bit more in depth with each year.
I don't mind because I think this, and I'm gonna just outright say why I decided to do this show, because I think when I think of like people who were influential in the world of Sega, and not just in the world of Sega, but like their influence surpasses the world of Sega. I probably think about Yu Suzuki in terms of game developers as the main one. And I immediately think about Hiro as the person that I associate most with Sega music. Everyone likes Takenobu Mitsuyoshi. I love Takedude as well. But I think it's like, for me, Takenobu is here and Hiro is a little bit above Takenobu because of his portfolio and his legacy. So I remember back in the day, I don't know how many years ago, uh, I had to, or I decided to do like one of those filler shows on Radio Sega. Probably one of the regular shows wasn't airing that week. And I thought I could do a Sega mix, which is something that we sometimes do on Radio Sega. It's a very nice format that I enjoy very much. But then I decided, no, let's do something different. Let's do a show about Hiro and his music, because I don't think, just like a little bit like with Yu Suzuki, where people like or love certain games that he worked on, but they don't really give it too much thought into who developed this game, who produced this. Oh, it was Yu Suzuki. He's the mastermind behind this. And people don't really, I think he's a little bit underappreciated. In terms of music, I think that's the case with Hiro as well. People probably know many of the songs he composed or arranged, but don't know he was the man behind them. And so what I decided back then was to do something I called the Hiro Appreciation Show. And I played some songs by Hiro. And this is all coming full circle, because when I was thinking about what should I call this episode, which I haven't decided yet, but it could be the Hero Appreciation Show as well, because that's what we're here to do. Right? Yeah. Let's go Hiro. So Hiroshi Miyawuchi, right? Later Hiroshi Kawaguchi, which is probably the name that people know him best by. Also known as Hiro, his like nickname of sorts.
Or
Right?
Master Hero. That's also a nickname on top of the nickname.
Nice. Yeah, Master Hiro. Hiro-sama.
Yeah.
So why would you say I was babbling all about this man. Do you agree with anything that I just said about him being underappreciated, about him? What's your take on that?
I would say, yeah, he is in the same way that a lot of video game composers inevitably end up being underappreciated, but also like uh, I did see in 140 seconds VGM. Oh geez, it's always difficult when I'm working with multiple groups that have VGM in the name. 140 seconds VGM that posts all those like 2-minute excerpts of songs. Where I'm also an admin, I saw a link to a Resetera thread there, and there were all sorts of people who didn't really know about him, despite knowing all of these games like Outrun and Fantasy Zone and Afterburner that he's contributed to, and just loving him so much, despite not really knowing how much of a trooper he's still been beyond that. So yeah, I think there's, and of course the fact that his games have influenced so many people, and even influenced the direction of music with like the synthwave being also being named Outrun music because of how much it's influenced by Outrun, and and yeah, I'd absolutely agree that he is underappreciated for the amount of things that he has contributed, because like he does not at all get the same recognition that composers like Koji Kondo or even David Wise and a lot of the composers at Rare get. Anyone who isn't in the like Nintendo sphere ends up getting a little overshadowed, uh, unless you're like have that wider appreciation of VGM specifically, as opposed to like just music in general. Despite how much he has touched just general music.
That's an issue that I think you're very right about. Nintendo sort of dominates like the zeitgeist here, and people know about Miyamoto. They know about Sakurai, maybe about like Koji Kondo as well. So people who worked on Nintendo or Nintendo affiliated or related games do get some recognition because it's still video game music, and they should get more appreciation and more recognition. But that's another topic for another day. But I think Sega composers, and by extension other companies as well, maybe are not that recognized by the general gaming public, and that's a shame. That's a shame because, like you said, Hiro did influence a lot, not just in gaming but outside gaming. And nice shout. That was a very good shout. Talking about outrun music, synthwave being known as outrun music. That has to mean something, right?
Yeah, it was such a big shock to me to be like, I don't even know how I found out, but like reading the Wikipedia page about it and just seeing Outrun reference like that is quite a shocker.
Yeah, it's great. And the thing is, so going a little bit into the history of Hiro. So he was born in 1965. He's 60. So like we said, like that tradition like that you mentioned, people get a letter at 60, like the old retirement age, and then they spend the next 5 years maybe working a little bit less, maybe, perhaps, who knows. But he's 60 now. He turned 60 in April. He was born in the Chiba prefecture. My Japanese is
Chiba, yeah.
Chiba prefecture in Japan.
Yeah.
And he didn't start his career at Sega as a musician or a composer or anything. Am I correct?
Yes, he was a programmer. And the reason for that being that not only did he have history in music, he also made his own games and even submitted them to magazines.
Interesting, right? And the first credit I think he got, correct me if I'm wrong, was Champion Soccer on the SG-1000.
This has always confused me because everyone, whenever he talks about it, he says that Girls Garden was the first game he worked on. That it was like a week after he joined Sega that he was assigned to that project with Yuji Naka. I suppose and that he's also said that Champion Soccer was the last game he programmed.
No problem at all, because I have Girls Garden footage as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, my guess, I suppose, is just that Girls Garden development took so much longer than Champion Soccer that it just ended up coming out afterwards. That's my best guess.
Probably, right? So this is also famous for being the first or one of the first projects that Yuji Naka of Sonic fame worked on. It's a very weird premise for a game, but it's also a very, I would say, complex game for the system. I would say it's like very impressive, I think.
Yeah, I would absolutely say so.
Yeah.
Especially in like the bonus stages where what was it? Where a lot of the what looks like foreground sprites are actually background sprites, so that they can create bigger sprites that move along the screen, which Yuji Naka ended up also doing when he ported Space Harrier to the Master System, and probably something else, but I don't remember anything beyond that.
So I'm trying to find the bonus stages. There we go. So people can see what you're. So if
Yeah.
you're listening in, we're showing footage of Girls Garden. If you're not familiar with this, we already mentioned this several times on the show. It's one of those Sega Lounge challenge questions that is a tradition. We always end up talking about Girls Garden, and the premise is very weird, as I said. So you're a girl who needs to like prevent her boyfriend from dating another girl, and the way to do that is to collect flowers while running away from bears who want to eat you. It
That's
makes sense somehow.
I mean, it's the man or bear debate, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so.
To be modern but not so topical, I guess.
So yeah, the Girl Scout. He worked on this as a programmer and a graphic designer, if I'm not mistaken. If the credits are
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, technically it's more like he initially did graphic design and then someone else came to touch them up, but I'm not sure if any of the final sprites are still his. So
Mhm.
let's say he did he did do graphic design.
I'd
Yeah,
say that. Yeah,
yeah,
at some point,
absolutely
at
correct.
least. Yes, even if the designs didn't end up in the final product, but at least he worked on it a little
Yeah.
bit. So let's
Don't let
credit.
his talent. Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't let
Yeah.
his talents go unmentioned.
Yeah, exactly. So that I wanted to mention this one because it's a fairly known game that we, like I said, end up mentioning on the show a few times, and so his affiliation with this is interesting, at
You sure
least.
don't want no, you sure you don't want to rename the show to Girls Garden?
Could
It
be
is still a place.
the Girls Garden Lounge,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Girls Garden Appreciation show for this episode.
Mm.
Could be. But no, because we have appreciation for more of his works. In terms of music, what would be the first soundtrack Hiro worked on?
I've always heard that it's Outrun. There's like he talks about having helped with Pitfall 2 and Dragon Wang, but Dragon Wang. Sorry, I've mispronounced that.
No, please don't correct yourself because it's one of the best names ever for anything. So what's this game? Mom, look,
Dragon
I have a new
Wang.
game. Mom, look, I have a new game. What you're playing, son? I'm playing Dragon Wang. Slap. I'm shocked. Uh, yes,
No,
Dragon Wang, which is
well,
totally
yeah,
different, right?
yeah. I mean,
Okay.
he did almost name Passing Breeze, Passing Wind, so it
Yeah,
wouldn't be
it's true.
he does come close to controversy controversy to silliness sometimes. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah. Because
Dragon Wang was one that he worked on.
he worked on. I still
No.
don't know if he did soundtracks. He just said he
Mhm.
helped,
Okay.
and the same for like Pitfall 2, which I feel like that's probably a different composer mostly, but maybe like one or two songs are his because that's got a fair few songs, so it could always be him.
Mhm.
But Hang On is like the definitive. Yes, he definitely worked on this. Although he didn't program the music themselves, I think that was Yoji Ishii who was probably also the composer of Pitfall, but yeah, at least we've got the title theme from that and the main theme that uh, I remember when it was ported to Shenmue, there were some people who were quite surprised that it actually had some drums because they weren't getting cut out by the engine sounds anymore.
Yeah. So hang on. It took me a while, but we have footage from Ango. Hang on. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
I can play Hang On.
I have to say that the main theme of Hang On is one of my favorite Sega tunes of all time. I was
Yeah,
actually looking. I change the like what I say are my favorites every now and then. But I went back and looked at the playlist for a show I did on Radio Sega. Radio Sega's Top 40 Countdown, the 10th anniversary special, was I picked 40 of my favorite Sega tunes and I arranged them somehow to make a top 40. The order is not final. Maybe like the top 10 maybe is actually in order, but the rest is just random. Uh, but this is on there. This is at number 11, the main theme of Hang On. So,
Wow.
which because it's not just about the quality, it's also about the memories and the nostalgia of it. So I do have a special place in my heart, or there's a special place in my heart for Hang On and Super Hang On in particular as well.
No, I'd absolutely agree. I'd say with nostalgia and stuff, even no matter how much respect you can have for the craft of something, is if there isn't like that personal connection, that sort of bit of self love that the song gives you, then it can't be one of your favorites.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So one of probably the first one that he somehow worked on the music of, right? But you mentioned probably the one that he is most, I don't know, what do you think are his most recognizable soundtracks, or I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like it has to be Outrun, not just for the Outrun itself, but also all of the different rearrangements we've had of those songs throughout the history. Like when you look at the Outrun 20th anniversary soundbox, which is like 11 discs long, and most of those are just rearrangements of those classic four songs. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
yeah. I feel like maybe in Japan there's a little bit of advantage to Afterburner with how much it impacted the Japanese scene, and like taking it back to Super Smash Brothers, the Bayonetta stage has the Afterburner music in it as well.
Yes, yes. I would
But I mean,
say also
it could have
maybe
Outrun
Space
place as well.
Harrier. Yeah,
Yeah,
probably the main
I
theme.
think you were leading me into that.
No, I was just thinking because it's hard to say what I can't speak for other people, right? So I would probably say for me, Outrun is up there as like the number one. When I think of Hero, I think Outrun first. But then I remember the Space Harrier theme also played as the BIOS music in some Master System
Yeah,
models. So maybe there is a lot
yeah,
of people who have nostalgia for that. And so
yeah. I
if
think you're right.
they ended up looking up who composed that, maybe they saw the name and said, okay, so when I think of
Yeah.
Hero, it's Space Harrier, maybe.
It's also interesting because like Sega Game Music Volume 1, which was like a best-selling album from back in the day, released by what is it, like Alpha Records, that has both Outrun and Space Harrier on it. So those are like the battling soundtracks for his like best-selling album, I suppose. So
Okay, makes
really
sense.
really just depends on which direction you listen to the album in, I suppose.
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah, yeah. Depends on
Yeah.
if the order gets reversed. Reference to Passing Breeze and Splash Wave having their titles reversed on that album.
Yeah, it depends on if we end up having Passing Wind on the album. That will probably like make Outrun the number one without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The memories of Passing Wind.
Oh, for sure. With the blonde girl next to you on your Ferrari, your red, not Ferrari, maybe
Yeah,
Ferrari. Depends on the
which
version
is
of Outrun you play.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The don't go for the Sega Ages one. It's just not good enough.
Exactly. It's a random red car. Yeah.
Mm. Random red car, random red car. Yeah. It might be the supercar from Action Fighter, which also did a couple contributions to. Well, don't know if he did the car theme for that one though. I wish you would just tell us which song which song was his.
So that's an issue as well, right? It's not really a Hero exclusive issue. Maybe not so much for him because we actually get a lot of or have a lot of credits from him, and we know what he worked on. But it's sometimes hard, especially in terms of Japanese composers and Japanese developers, to know what people worked on. Maybe not so much these days, but in the past, especially, they didn't get credited or they didn't get credited at all, or they used pseudonyms or nicknames, and sometimes you don't
Yeah,
really know yet who that that random initial individual is,
yeah.
right?
And then also there's times when they completely just forget about the games that they ended up working on. So that also makes an issue. Some people have to end up telling Hiro what games he worked on. Yeah.
So that tells you a lot about a person's state of mind as well. Like, oh yeah, I did all these soundtracks. I worked on them and I moved on, right? And you're like, no, but these are such amazing and iconic soundtracks. Sure, if you say so.
Yeah, I wrote them in my sleep.
Yeah, just came to me in a dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you say are other, and for you especially, like personally, what would you say are other important soundtracks that Hero worked on?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely been Power Drift has always been one of my favorites. It just with all the massive songs that it has and the diversity in those songs and the advancements in instrument sampling that he pioneered, I suppose, with Hang On and Space Harrier and Afterburner, which this continues the sound of, which with more drum samples and guitar samples, and now he has trumpet and bass solos as not solos, no, just slap bass samples, and then uh, I also always end up grouping it alongside the Sega Ages port on the Saturn, with which several of which he did as like almost 10th anniversary tributes to the originals, and getting to revisit classic games and uh, bring out different ideas that were maybe rejected in those games, like for example silent language, which for this game was supposed to have a melody, but then he just couldn't think of a good melody, and eventually left it melodyless. Then for the Saturn version he created a melody, and then later he rearranged it again and decided now it's better without a melody. So it ends up showing how that also ends up showing how a composer ends up reevaluating their old work and digging up old ideas, which I really appreciate to learn about.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
great that they have that opportunity, right? Not everyone probably had that opportunity, but having time pass, being still available and willing, and have, being given the chance to work on your early compositions and rework them, reimagine them, that's probably a good feeling as well, right?
yeah. Absolutely. I've definitely had joy in revisiting some of the old work that I've had, and of course, people, of course, they have cringe at their old works, but I think that's just the catalyst for a rework and for a rehash, I suppose, and a
Mhm.
reboot and all the re's
And a
that you can think of.
remaster and
Yeah, yeah,
but that's also a good sign, right? Imagine going back to your earlier works and say, "Oh, this was amazing. I've never done anything as good as this since." So that's gotta be sad.
yeah. It's obviously sad when the fans think that way and you think a
Mm.
completely different way.
Oh yeah, that's a good point, and that tends to happen, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In games and in songs, and yeah, that's probably any artistic work. That's
Yeah,
actually a
yeah.
good point. Yeah.
Even when you're like creating your own works, sometimes you'll like rework them, and then eventually you'll start to think, nah, it was better when I had the original idea. So let's just go back to that, and you end up having fans end up getting that experience in over a much longer period of time.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. So Power Drift is one. Would you like to mention any other uh, near and dear to your heart soundtracks?
Yeah, the other game of his that came out that same year as Power Drift was Dynamite Ducks, which I've always really liked. It's with its cheesy references to pop music of the time, like the songs by like a song by Stevie Wonder, for example, and the way it continues that fantasy zone sound with more like goofiness and not so much trying to aim for the cutting edge, but just going for musicality and diversity in its own right is so charming to me, and
Yeah.
the melodies in it are lovely, and well, oh,
And by the way, for Sonic fans, if you're not aware of this game of Dynamite Ducks, and if you're watching the video version, you can definitely tell something is familiar. So the
yeah,
character,
guns like Shadow the Hedgehog.
yeah, exactly. This is what they were thinking. This Shadow the Hedgehog is actually a spiritual successor to Dynamite Ducks. That's what we wanted to say. So you're welcome for this amazing Sega game trivia, Sega education. Yeah, moving on. No, I'm kidding. So, Being the Dynamite from Sonic the Fighters, and you can see Being the Dynamite being referenced in Sonic Mania, for example, in one of the stages. There's a wanted poster that he's one of the like bosses, somewhat in the game. It's based
Oh.
on the two ducks from this character, which I believe are Bin and Pin. I believe.
Yeah, Bean and Pin, yeah,
Yeah.
which
Oh, yeah.
themselves are
Yeah.
which themselves are based on Bin from Sega, one of the programmers behind like Space Harrier and Outrun and Afterburner.
Oh, I didn't
So
know that.
so I guess Being the Dynamite is based on a real life guy
There we go.
who was really into dynamite.
Yeah, exactly. And this one or these ones are more into guns, like Shadow. What?
Oh look, 128. That's the studio that developed it, Studio 128.
Ah,
Nice reference.
all the references.
Yeah.
Look, he's got bombs.
It's a
Yes.
fun game that way. Moose.
This is a very
the answer now.
underrated game, I think, as well, which is
Yeah, I think.
a Master
looks
System
fantastic.
classic as well. Yeah, although we're looking
oh yeah,
at
it was on
the
Master System.
we're looking at the arcade version.
Yeah, there was going to be a Mega Drive version, but they canceled it.
For shame. For shame.
Yeah.
Okay, more soundtracks
Oh,
that you want to mention.
Oh, yeah. Sonic. Well, he
Okay.
did Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, the first. I was going to say the first Sonic arcade game, but there was a popcorn machine before that, I think.
Yeah, okay. You got a point there. Yeah.
Yeah. But like Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, it's always something like it's like 10, 12 minutes long total, but I always enjoy putting it on and playing the drums to it because it's has such a fun energy. And I know only like 4 of the songs are his, but Trap Tower and Eggman's Tower are absolute classics. Even if a lot of Sonic fans don't know it because of the game's relative obscurity and Sega not bringing back that music enough. But I remember listening to the Sonic Mania soundtrack for the first time and hearing that Trap Tower remix. It was an absolute jam to hear. And to go back to this original, I've also really get your blood pumping.
Yeah, it's Trap Tower. So it's in Sonic Mania Plus is the bonus stage, the mini game, like the pinball machine with the claw part as well. So that's the soundtrack to that in Sonic Mania Plus.
I don't think this game has a lot to do with pinball, so I'm not sure why that game was picked. Well, because of Mighty and Ray, so it's just that.
Yeah, probably. Or, could be. Oh, I didn't think about that, actually. I was thinking it's like just one of the many nods to Sonic history. But yes, probably. Yeah, that makes more sense because of Mighty and Ray. Yeah, now that I think about it, yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah.
Because they're in Sonic Mania Plus. They're like the big additions to Sonic Mania Plus, so it makes sense. Yes, that's
if
true.
I remember correctly, they also have like the Volcanic Vault song as like for a little bit of a cutscene in that game. I actually don't remember where it plays.
Probably in the beginning, maybe. Like I can't remember. Yeah, I do remember Trap Tower though. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I still need to play Sonic Mania. I bought it like a week ago, and it says that I've played it for 9 hours, but a lot of that was it just being paused.
Okay.
Okay. I'll get to it. I'll get to it when I have time. I'll get to it.
It's a great game. It's one of my favorites. So
it feels really good to play so far from what I've played of Green Hill Zone.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And
And
all the Blue Sphere stages, I've had fun with those.
you can go to the sound test as well. So and enjoy that. There is a sound test, like in all Sega games back in the day. They all had sound tests. That's why I think that's why I love Sega music so much. It's not just because of the games, like playing the games and listening to the songs. We had the sound tests, and so we could go into them. We used to record them, hook the TV to the stereo with the tape recorder. We could record the songs into like a cassette tape. I'm so old. I'm so old. I'm mentioning things that people don't even know. What's a TV? No one knows what a TV is.
This reminds me of like I saw in the Outrun 20th anniversary box how like composer Fumio Ito also has like an autographed cassette tape of his recording of the Outrun soundtrack.
See?
So I think you've got a thing in common.
Yeah, there you go. So, but I didn't. Mine wasn't autographed. I didn't autograph mine. I should have autographed my own cassette tape, so I could say, "See, I have an autographed tape." But no,
Yeah,
sadly no.
it's not easy to. Well, it is easy to write an autograph that just says Hiro on it.
No, mine would say just Casey. It's my
even
autograph on my tape.
even simpler,
Even
better.
simpler. Yeah, easier. So Sega Sonic the Hedgehog. What else would you like to mention?
I've got. I've definitely. I've. It almost feels like cheating, but I've got to mention Code of Joker Pocket. I really love the songs in that game. That Hiro got to remix some songs from the original Code of Joker arcade game, and two of Yuzo Koshiro's songs for that. They ended up like all four of his songs ended up on the Hiro Remix Works album, which is like a whole compilation of him remixing other people's music. And the Time to Stagnation remix is just absolutely gets me. It,
And now we're gonna get a
such
copyright strike because of that.
you'll
Man.
have to deal with it. I'm not losing my revenue stream, even if
Yeah,
I'll just let you deal
I
with
have
it.
no idea what this game is about. I do think I looked it up a few years ago, but I don't seem to remember. Is it like a mobile RPG? The version we're looking at is like the mobile version, but is it like an RPG with?
What I remember of the arcade game is more of like it's like a turn-based RPG with like trading cards that you collect
Oh,
and
okay.
and use as like your characters and like attacks maybe because like
Okay.
it's one of the last vestiges of that really big boom in the mid 2000s when Sega was really cashing in on arcade games that you had to collect trading cards for
Yeah.
to play. Sangokushi Taisen, World Club Champion Football, Mushi King, Love and Berry. It was basically like just this and Sengoku Taisen around it still at the time.
Hmm.
Well,
Okay.
I guess they did bring back Mushi King eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Yakuza games, you can play that as well. In a
Yeah.
way.
Yakuza makes everything eternal.
Sexy Beatles. Uh,
Sexed
yeah.
up Beatles.
Sexed up, exactly. More. That's more appropriate, more accurate.
Appropriate.
I mean, not appropriate, more accurate. Wrong word.
Think before you speak.
Exactly. I never do. Yeah. So, kind of
Your mom
Joker
is very
Pocket,
ashamed of you.
getting us back on track.
Yeah. Oh, one more game that I do also love, but more people will have heard of is Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown.
Virtual what? Yeah, okay.
No, it was so awesome to like see Hiro working on a Virtua Fighter game. That and to have him do all the best songs, of course. To have him do like that that's really trancey theme for Wolf, and like right there, Kage. That is the very stage that Hiro's music plays on, and it's just this awesome trance techno sort of song. And the Eileen song is awesome because like he incorporates this deserty vibe, but also brings in the Chinese music that he composed for Sangokushi Taisen. Is like perfect use of all the training that he'd had for 5 years, just bringing in this Chinese music for a Chinese character. And then there's also like a Chinese song in Like a Dragon Gaiden that he did. So it paid off in other franchises to have developed that vocabulary.
Yeah, excellent. So that's actually a very good selection of soundtracks. Not as varied as mine. Speaking of Eileen, there's Eileen. So there you
Ruins.
go.
You've
Ruins.
got the perfect videos, actually.
Yeah. All planned, not really.
Think before you play your videos.
I never do. But yes. But that's actually a good shout because you mentioned in your individual episodes that you dedicated to Hero, which I recommend all of the episodes, obviously, but the ones you dedicated to Hero, you mentioned all the stages of his career, basically, and all the different like eras of Hero, and that's actually the soundtracks that you mentioned kind of represent those eras in some way, which is nice. And he kept evolving and probably still will for at least the next 5 years. In his second form, right?
His second form. All of those eras were just his first form.
Exactly. So whatever can we expect from him? Oh my God. It's going to rule the world.
Show us.
Yeah.
Show us your true colors.
This isn't even his final form. He also worked on Dragon Ball.
He did. That's good.
Yeah.
It's a very different kind of music.
I would say for me, so I'm a very boring person, and I would say the things that I think about when I think about Hero would be Outrun, obviously. I would say Hang On, Space Harrier, Afterburner, but I want to mention Fantasy Zone because Fantasy Zone is, and it's the sound of Fantasy Zone, you can recognize it anywhere, and even in like games like Sonic Frontiers and even Sonic Superstars, right? There is music in Sonic Frontiers that has nothing to do with Fantasy Zone, but you can tell that's a Hero track, definitely, and it got like that Fantasy Zone like feel to the tracks. And then in Superstars, there's a Fantasy Zone themed level, and it makes sense that his influence is there.
Yeah, that's a little bit. Some would say too on the nose, but I would say it's completely perfect to have him on for that. Yeah. But it's been really fun to see him bring back those classic sounds because of I think it's the Korg gadget that has all of his like retro sounds fitted into them, then makes it easy to use that as a door to create some retro music. I think also the Astro City Mini has music like that was made with that.
Yeah.
So
I remember so people usually like don't really love Sonic Superstars. I enjoyed the game a lot, I have to say, more than probably most, but the highlight for me, hands down, was that stage that appears out of nowhere, I would say. And then the stage itself being a Fantasy Zone, I don't think I'm spoiling anything. So there's a stage where you playing as Sonic or one of the other Sonic friends, you hop on the Egg Mobile and you essentially play a Fantasy Zone stage, complete with boss is in everything, and the soundtrack is a Fantasy Zone song in a way. So it I smiled through the whole thing. And every time I played, I think last month or something, I was replaying Superstars for a little bit on my Steam Deck, and I got to that stage, and I forgot that that stage was there because it doesn't fit with the theme of the zone it's in. It's like the second act of a zone.
Yeah, Frozen Base, I think.
Yeah, Frozen Base, right? I think it's the ice one. Yes, it's Frozen Base Act 1, and then Act 2 doesn't really. You go into space and you play a Fantasy Zone stage. So,
Yeah,
and I
I guess
totally forgot about it.
yeah. I guess the snow level in Fantasy Zone is just that memorable. Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah.
but it's like you just go up in space and fight like badniks
One of,
that are.
yeah. Isn't one of the boss also like designed after the one of the Fantasy Zone bosses?
It is. It is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
all
think
of that's a love letter to Fantasy Zone, and I'm here for it. I do love me my Fantasy Zones. So definitely, and
yeah.
again, it's one of those that I associate with Hero a lot. When I think of Hero, I think about Fantasy Zone.
Yeah, yeah. I also almost really was really close to putting Fantasy Zone in my top five as well of hero soundtracks, but like I just had to give that edge to Dynamite Ducks for yeah. But also on the Frozen base, having those Fantasy Zone elements, I like remember that that game of course was developed by Arzest, which
Mhm.
is Naoto Oshima's company, but also one of the other presidents of it is Yoji Ishii, who is the creator of Fantasy Zone.
Oh, I
So
didn't know
I
that.
want I wonder
Okay.
if maybe he's the reason it's in there.
Oh, makes sense. Makes sense. I just realized
Yeah.
we've been talking about it, but I was showing no footage. So I'm trying to fix that while we talk
I think
about.
that I think the screen was a little frozen.
Yeah, that's a nice one. And there we go. And there we go. So here's the
Hey.
Fantasy Zone stage, Frozen Base Act 2 in
Even
Sonic
the enemies are
Superstars.
Fantasy Zone ones. I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Like
like the way they
Fantasy
all move
Zone
around.
themed badniks. And
Ooh,
it's
they're like babies. Yeah.
yeah. I
It is.
get the not it's not I don't think it's hate, but the complaints that people have about this game. But I do enjoy Sonic Superstars. And definitely this is one of the big reasons that I like this game so much. This was a very nice change of pace, and what a nod to this classic Sega franchise that doesn't get enough love, I think. Although we have gotten some 3D classics, Fantasy Zone 3D classics, Sega
Oh
Ages
yeah.
as well on the Switch, Fantasy Zone 2.
Did we get
So
Sega Ages? I actually don't
we
remember
did.
if we got.
I believe we got
Wow.
Fantasy Zone 2, I believe.
Oh,
I believe so. I could be wrong, but I think so. I think so.
I think you actually are. I think the 3DS was mainly like Fantasy Zone Home because that had like Fantasy Zone 2 and also Opa Opa Brothers. That was the one.
Yeah, it was Fantasy Zone 2 Double, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which, and it had
2
the
double, yeah.
original one as well, I think. I could look it
Mm,
up. But
yeah. And
I
also like there was the one of the compilations, one of the classics collections, or as it's known in outside of Japan,
yeah,
had also
yeah,
like the Master System version of Fantasy Zone with the new FM sound.
yeah. It's Fantasy Zone 2 The Tears of Opa Opa, I believe. The name of
Was it?
the yeah, the name of the Master System one, I think.
Oh
I
yes,
believe.
absolutely,
I believe.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
In terms of Sega Ages for the Switch, I think it's the second one, but I could be wrong. It's the first one. I am wrong. It's
Ah.
Sega Ages Fantasy Zone. Yeah.
Well, you were originally right,
Yeah.
so you're always right, actually, Casey.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Even when I'm wrong, I'm right. That's nice.
Hey, I know right from wrong.
See, look, there's the boss. The boss. Awesome.
You were right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Although
see.
you didn't mention it looks so much like Eggman. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna
it
I'm
had to. It had to. It's still a
I'm
Sonic
gonna
game. So,
yeah. I'm gonna accuse you of some false advertising in
are are
that
are you
aspect.
deducting points from my score? Oh my god.
I
Uh,
never did introduce a point system to individual, did I? So I'll have to do it on the Sega Lounge instead.
there we go. I get minus 30 points for that. I'm sad now.
Thank you, thank you for doing my work for me.
Yeah.
I can take it easy.
What else can we mention in terms of iconic soundtracks? I don't know. What would you say? Because then what starts to happen as we go further into the 2000s and later is it's not like he doesn't do soundtracks as much as individual tracks, right? So it's a little bit hard to pinpoint, oh, this is a hero track, except for the aforementioned Sonic tracks that really do have the classic Fantasy Zone hero sound. But yeah, but would you? Is there something from the later years, apart from what you already mentioned, that stands out to you?
I've got a couple I'm thinking of. One that people would expect of me is Kraken DJ, a very interesting one for the time, that people would definitely expect of me because of like my association with Kraken DJ and how much of a massive fan of it I was around the same time that I joined Radio Sega. Uh, I, it's an interesting one that like it introduced Hiro to hip hop, despite being a absolute hip hop hater before that, but learning to really appreciate the craft of what a DJ does, and so much that despite the first game being uh, produced, I think, by Kenji Kano, who also created Crazy Taxi, the sequel, Kraken DJ Part 2, was produced and directed by Hiro, one of the very few times that video game composer ended up directing a video game, or at least at Sega, which actually was sort of weirdly a thing that happened a lot right around that time because Kazuhito Shimizu got to direct Shakato Tambourine, which then again was also a rhythm game,
Okay,
and Tomoko Sasaki, who was the creator of Roomania number 203, after having composed Ristar and Knights. Oh,
nice, nice.
Kraken DJ definitely. It's it introduced us to Mitsuharu Fukuyama also as a composer who was actually influenced by Hiro in his early days, with like Passing Breeze being his like absolute favorite song from that era. Like a sort of introduced him to jazz, which is his main genre. Yeah. Although it was the Master System version, which I hear is apparently the worst version of Outrun.
I don't know. It depends on who you ask, because there are other
Yeah.
non-Sega systems that had Outrun ports,
Mhm.
and it kind of depends on if people like
Yeah.
that the sound chips or not. I believe.
Yeah, I guess it's just Japanese gamers that don't know all of the UK computers
Yeah,
that have
yeah,
that idea.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
yeah, but
But Kraken DJ is like a Radio Sega classic as well. I think I did have a lot of fun playing the different songs on Radio Sega, and and like it's different kind of game. It's like one of those games that probably one of the last few, if we're not counting like My and Chunithm and stuff, that really bring out that Sega craziness at the arcade. Like you're a DJ, so like do your DJing, of
yeah,
course.
so it's got a super fun vibe. And
Mm,
speaking of this is like My sort of like the successor to Kraken DJ.
mhm.
Even has like a whole bunch of Kraken DJ songs in the first version, and the first few generations of My were also Heroes like projects because he was the sound director for those. So he ends up like kicking off this whole uh, rhythm game revival in Sega's arcade scene, which is before he ended up getting booted off them and doing Sangokushi Tyson instead.
Not Crack and DJ. My is also very famous for being the first washing machine simulator in an arcade.
That we
Obviously,
know of.
that we know of course. Yeah, so revolutionizing kitchen appliances forever in the
I,
arcade.
abso- I
Yeah,
absolutely agree with you. It's a it's a it's a mark that it's a point in history that we will all look back on with fondness for
exactly.
generations to come.
For
Yeah.
generations to come. This the gameplay of My is madness, I have to say. This is very tame right now. Where we're looking at is very, very tame. But he's probably
It
playing on easy or something, or super easy, or because people have like their little gloves and like just go all over the place. Yeah.
it would be lovely for me to play because I am a percussionist, so smacking things is my forte.
Okay. I don't think I have the I don't know the not just the skills, but even I'm not synchronized enough to like be able to do this. I would be like, oh my god, I just like tap
Yeah.
everywhere and everything and smash things and just break the washing machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although compared to me, you do have the advantage of a higher frame rate than I do, so you do have you've got a couple things going for you.
Probably. It would
Yeah.
would it like be a blur? No, no blur. So it's just like,
No
yeah,
absence of blur. It would all be
absence of
very
blur. Okay.
very pinpointed.
I was looking at the video that I was showing people, and there's a related video that's called "An Introduction to My, the washing machine rhythm game." See, so yeah, for
Hey,
generations to come. Yeah,
hey.
we're gonna remember this.
Yeah. Also, I think one of the I know the usual My mascot is like a lion with the My shapes around its head, but then I think there's also an alternate mascot that like is just a more conventional washing machine with a lion eyes and mouth on it. So
Okay,
they went way overboard and in in go in embracing the meme, I suppose.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. There's also that
Uh,
one song that's literally called Coin Laundry Disco.
I don't know that one. I think, yeah. I need
I
to.
guess
I'm not like updated with the current my trends. Look at the lion. Look at a little lion. Yay!
eh, Kuma-chan. I think that's their name. I
I
hope so.
think I think it is. Yes, I think it is. Yeah. There we go.
SEGA.
There you go.
China.
Countries with
Yeah.
my. So this is that washing machine. Shout out. I'm gonna link this in the video description because this person deserves more views talking about washing machines. Yeah.
Well, so do
Uh,
you.
okay, but
For,
I'm not talking about
for
washing
talking.
machines that much. It's not a. We need to do a special show dedicated to my.
Oh yeah, that would be lovely. The two of us.
Yeah, maybe. Why not? Let's play. Let's find a my machine somewhere like between South Africa and Portugal. We'll meet
Yeah.
up in the middle. I don't know what that would be. Some country in Africa. I don't know. And
Yeah, yeah. Probably
we'll
somewhere in the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
of Congo. Yeah, okay. And we'll play my together and we'll film it. And it's going to be a special episode of the Second Lounge.
Yeah, I should get my Portuguese uncle involved in the mix.
You have a Portuguese uncle. Oh, that's even better.
Yeah. I've got some half Portuguese cousins. I
Oh,
think they're
that's
in Portugal at the moment, but I won't
nice.
dox them.
Don't do that. No. Right. So, Enya, we talked about what my obviously and cracking DJ. My is fun. It brings you a pleasure. It's part of a song as well.
My
Always
is
loved.
fun. It
It
brings you
brings
a
you a pleasure.
pleasure.
Oh no, another
Oh, we're gonna get
copyright strike.
copyright strike.
I wonder if people listening to this or watching this, they are not really into the Radio Sega scene, if they're like, what the hell are they talking about? And if you are, please look it up. Please get yourself familiarized with My and Kraken DJ and all
Radio
these
Sega.
other, and Radio Sega, obviously, and Individual, and obviously also all the crazy and amazing works of Heroes, because it's worth it. It's worth it. One that I remembered, Tetris Giant as well. Another crazy, totally different
Really wanted to
soundtrack.
bring that up too, but
Yeah.
you beaten me to it.
Oh, there we go. There we go. I'll try to find footage of that. Decaris, right? Tetris Decaris, I think.
Decaris!
Decaris.
Tetris Decaris.
Tetris. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
all
have
the
footage.
idol singers in them that, like, I think that all of them were voice actors for like one or two Sega projects before then. Pretty sure one of them voices one of the Sega Hard Girls, actually.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
Might be like
are the
SG-1000.
Sega Hard Girls? Is this prior to the Sega Hard Girls project? I believe so.
Yeah, I think this is 5 years exactly, because
Okay.
Sega Hard Girls was 2014, or was it 2013? It might have been.
Really?
I don't remember when the.
So long ago. My God.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
so
remember
old.
not the graphic novel when that came out. I'm pretty sure the animated series was 2014.
You might be right. Yeah, late 2014, perhaps. I was doing Radio Sega's Top 40 countdown at that point, and it was all the rage, because I started in September 2013, so it was probably like the later part of 2014. Every week, we were watching it like religiously, and we talked about it on the show as well. So it was a big thing back then.
Yeah, I think I ended up catching it because I ended up getting into Sega in high school. Had to watch Sega Hard Girls after it had all wrapped up, and also, of course, learning a lot of new things in that, even Die Hard Arcade and Mushi King, and of course the stuff that they actually made dedicated episodes to, Virtua Fighter, Chain Chronicle, because for some reason Virtua Fighter wasn't in. Yeah, and Border Break, which I'm a little bit known for as well.
Yeah.
That was
but I remember Chain Chronicle. Sega went all in on Chain Chronicle at some point, and but then, like all mobile games, it didn't last.
It's still going.
Oh, it is really right now.
It is.
Oh my God!
I think it is.
At
least it at least made it to a 10th anniversary celebration.
There was, but is the game still going?
I was seeing videos about it around that time, and like a year afterwards. But I don't think I've seen it in a little bit. So maybe they have retired it by now. I know that Sin Chronicle didn't last over a year, so the sequel didn't manage to catch on. But clearly the original had some staying power.
Okay, in Japan though, because I remember service ending
version.
in the in the Western version didn't last too long either.
Yeah, I never caught that one.
Okay,
didn't catch the bug.
I did for a little bit, but again, like all phone games, just for a little bit.
It is very strange, the rare ones that do manage to like keep going, because like nowadays I think it's Shin Megami Tensei DX2 Liberation, and there's the whole the Fist of the North Star Revive one.
There's a Dragon one, isn't there?
There was. Is it still on? It definitely caught on for a little bit, but
or is it like a crossover between something else and Like a Dragon? I can't remember.
No, maybe there was Ryuga Gotoku Online.
Oh, that is. That's it.
Oh yeah.
I think
were you thinking? Maybe you were connecting the Fist of the North Star game to the Hokuto ga Gotoku, Fist of the North Star.
No, I think there was also something we talked about on this show in one of those news roundups. There was like some sort of crossover between another Japanese mobile game and Ryuga Gotoku, but I can't remember what it was.
To be fair, most of the successful or even the non-successful mobile games these days, especially in Japan, end up being carried by their crossovers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
apparently there is still stuff from Chain Chronicle coming from Japan, I think.
Well,
Yeah,
good on you.
maybe or maybe not. I can't tell if it's recent or if people are just sh- shooting videos of Chain Chronicle from the old versions or stuff. I don't know, but there we go. Yeah, this
No,
sounds or
this is
this looks very familiar. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, actually, our from because most of my like image of Chain Chronicle is still from the Sega Hard Girls episode, though I
Okay.
never actually played the game. It ends up feeling way different because I just imagine the Sega Hard Girls in that scenario.
Yeah. Okay. So Enya, we're about to wrap things up, but I still wanted to ask you about something about the influence of Hero, not just in the world of Sega, but outside. When we were talking about like what should we discuss during the show, and this is the Hero Appreciation episode of the Sega Lounge. So part of appreciating someone is like being influenced by them, learning from them, and carrying on their legacy, I guess. Do you feel like it's visible or maybe audible? Huh, the influence of Hiro. See what I did there? Is it audible in other composers' work or not so much? Is it noticeable in other ways?
Ooh. This was one that I sort of knew beforehand that this was something we might touch on, but I was thinking, how much do I actually know about other composers? And
A lot.
unfortunately, there's no. The truth is, not a lot. I had a Nintendo phase, and then I had a Sega phase that's just kept going. I I mentioned Mitsuharu Fukuyama, who was like influenced enough by Hiro to like actually get into jazz and eventually join Sega as a result of that, and had like a big influence, big impact on Outrun remixes. And I know Shoji Meguro is another one I can mention. He was influenced by Hiro. Shoji Meguro, for those who somehow don't know, despite him being one of the more famous Japanese video game composers.
Probably. Yeah.
He composed Persona 5.
Yeah.
So enough said.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He Hiro and Takenobu Mitsuyoshi were also big influences on him, and it's I suppose it makes sense. He's got like a do I know anything about Shoji Meguro? No,
Yeah,
he has a
but even maybe the if the style, even if the styles are different, maybe learning from someone and maybe even the work ethics is a thing that influences how you work as well.
yeah, and I think also the like inspiration to want to experiment within the realm of VGM. Like also, this is one that I just thought of the way that Hiro would bring pop music into his works, because he's not like a trained video game composer or a soundtrack composer. So he's mostly bringing in his influence from pop music and folk music, which is sort of also something that Meguro does, how he brings in J-pop and acid jazz into his works, sort of bridging that gap, I suppose, between
Hmm.
video game music and pop music.
There you go.
So that's
There you go. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I would also say something that's noteworthy is the composers at Sega that were like directly influenced by Hiro in the idea that he was their mentor in their first year at Sega. So the most famous example being Yasuhiro Takagi, who is now a one of the sound managers at Sega, who started out as Hiro's apprentice back in '88, like doing
Hmm.
the sound effects for Power Drift and getting to do half of Turbo Outrun soundtrack and such. Like there's a situation there where the the practice of creating video game music was taught to him by Hiro, and
Yeah.
yeah, the same goes for Keitaro Hanada, who worked with Hiro on Sega Sonic the Hedgehog and Dragon Ball Z. Ended up learning all of those techniques from the guy himself.
So obviously, yeah, and like I said, even if they went their own ways and created their own sound signatures and stuff, but learning from the guy certainly influenced them in one way or another, right? And being mentored
Yeah,
by him.
yeah. Like, because there's things that when you get into the video game industry, you wouldn't like expect as a part of your job, and it's good to have someone with so much experience and so much interest in the different aspects of video game audio to like learn from someone who is passionate about music but also is passionate about programming and has the capability to do sound effects, even if it's definitely one of the lesser things that he does. It's good to have that like that really well-rounded person to learn from in your
Yeah.
first year.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and of
I've
course,
Oh, sorry.
oh no
Please
no
go ahead. No.
oh
Because I was going to talk about something else, and I want to let you finish. Please.
okay. No, I was just gonna mention how like because of how uh big and popular his mid 80s soundtracks were, like Space Harrier and Afterburner and Outrun, it ends up like informing how video game designers end up thinking these games should sound. And a
Mhm.
lot of other composers at Sega would have been, or even outside of Sega, would have been told to make it sound like Outrun, or make it sound like Space Harrier, or make it sound like Fantasy Zone when they're creating a game that's sort of influenced by those games.
For
So,
sure.
like Radmobile, for example, is it, that could have had a much more experimental noise soundtrack, but the direction for that is more like this is the System 32's Outrun. It's got to sound kind of like Outrun. You got to make it like Outrun.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't
So,
outrun the legacy.
as someone was saying on another show that I do on Radio Sega, Night Train, on the Outrun movie, because it's a Michael Bay movie, maybe they're like, outrun this, and then they'll shoot. So, yeah. You can't outrun me, says Hiro. Yeah, bullet time. Maybe Hiro will make a special appearance, maybe playing the guitar, perhaps.
Yeah.
Who knows? Or
Just put him in the trunk of the Ferrari.
yeah, at the end, it's like, what happened? I was taking a nap.
He does take a lot of naps, so that would be
See?
in character.
That's the mark of a great person, of a
Well,
great creative.
yeah, and the mark of two very good screenwriters right here.
Exactly. Something that I want to mention before I go is it would be remiss of me not to mention this: the SST band, and I guess later Age as well. Age. So the SST band. So it's Hiro was obviously part of the SST band, and of later, I think he's the leader of Age, right? Like I believe so.
Unofficially, I
Unofficially.
think I think the description they gave on the H website is that he's the leader, but he doesn't actually know it.
Okay. Like being the senior member, right? So maybe that's why he's like the leader. Maybe I don't
And
know.
they can make the jokes that it's named after him, even though
Yeah,
like it's technically named after the company that it started under, Hitmaker. But once Hitmaker changed its name, it sort of became based on his name.
and this is something that I feel there were obviously house bands for other companies in Japan, like Zuntata for Taito, I think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for people who are Sega fans, the SST band and age represents some, especially outside of Japan, because we don't really get too much of those. Like there are no concerts, no live show performances, or rarely, and
Yeah,
but it's
I've
part
never
of like
heard Alpha Lyra Live.
yeah.
I couldn't say the Capcom bands' names.
I would pay a hefty sum to see like Age or the SST band, or or even a Blind Spot even play live. So I would really enjoy like listening to these amazing musicians play the classic Sega songs live. But that's besides the point. What I was gonna say is it's part of like my whole fantasy of Sega, right? There's Sega, there's the Sega fantasy that we create around like, no, don't be like that. Don't make that face. Um,
Make too
I'm
many faces,
it's not a
unfortunately.
fantasy like that. It's like the whole we fantasize Sega a little bit, right? It's just a company, a video game company, but we grew up with it and like, oh, it's an amazing company with lots of amazing people who are just regular human beings, but we like idolize them and such. And so it's part of that fantasy, like the SST band or Age, and seeing these amazing composers and musicians playing live would be really something amazing. But it's also part of something that I think Hiro is a part of and guilty of, which is bridging the gap, like you said before, between video game music and I would say regular mainstream music,
Real
right?
music.
Real music, right? For real people. I
The
think
real
so.
ones.
The OGs. I think. I think that it's important as well, right? And all the albums they release with arranged versions of their like more video gamey sounding songs and playing live shows and stuff. All of that also helps bridge the gap and popularize video game music. So I think that's something worth mentioning as well on this show, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The way that it ends up, like how it coincided with the more prominence of putting out video game music CDs and such that uh, Pony Canyon and such were really big on. Which technically Namco started that whole thing, but Sega was like ended up really like co-commandeering it. Like I think I heard that that Sega sort of had a stake in some of the companies that were pushing that, and like even after even after that group, that those companies sort of uh, went their own direction and started making their own publishing labels and such. It ended up being like the old SST band members and such that like stuck with that label with Citron and Pony Canyon to release their albums and of both original music and game music soundtracks. So they're very intertwined, but with the SST band and that whole movement of accepting video game music as as just another genre amongst all the music genres out there. And
Mhm.
with H, of course, of also like continuing that legacy and integrating it into live performance into the promotion of new games to keep it like relevant to the new generation. Like we see Sega continuing to do that with the Chain Band that promoted Chain Chronicle and
Mhm.
Metasequoia that promoted Border Break to like entertain people as in-house musicians at all these events and tournaments. It's part of that legacy.
Yeah, for sure. So again, another part of, I guess, not just Hero, but also Hero's influence, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though he slept through most of it.
So again, I would urge people to not just research about Hero, but also to listen to all of them, but especially the 3 hero-themed episodes of Individual on Radio Sega. Do that. Highly recommended. So
Tune in to your favorite live show. I was gonna sing the whole thing because I practiced earlier in the day, but I ended up not. Yeah, I don't want to make the show too long and sing the whole thing.
if you're not sure or you're not really aware of what that was, radiosega.net. Why not? Why not go to Radio Sega? You're listening to the Sega Lounge. You're a Sega fan, so go check out Radio Sega. You know, it's where this whole thing started. So do check out Radio Sega and go to your podcast app, right? Where you follow this show, and go follow Radio Sega's Individual as well. Look it up. So,
and if you're not, you should definitely go to the Sega Lounge website, or even subscribe to whatever channel you're watching this on, and or the podcast app that you're listening to this on. Subscribe to the Sega Lounge to make sure that you catch every single episode every single week, and re-listen to every single episode.
See you next week, guys. Bye. That was a perfect ending. Not yet, because I haven't said something that is important that I wanted to end this show on, which is my favorite song for my favorite hero soundtrack. I'm so unoriginal, but it's Magical Sun Shower. So yeah, there you go. It's part of my. I was just looking it up. I placed it as number 5 in my top 40 favorite Sega songs. So that's it. Enough said. Yeah, number 5. Number 5. Yeah. Okay. So, Enja Hamman, thank you very much for joining me. It was a real pleasure to talk to you, to get to know you a little bit more, and to let people know you a little bit more, to share the love for Hiro and his works. Where can people find you online?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's been great to talk with you outside of those few times when we were at part of the MagFest panels. So it was good to have that one-on-one with you. You can find me, I suppose, on Blue Sky. I don't remember what my domain name actually is, so just look for
it in the show notes. And yeah, well, it'll be there.
Yeah, just look up Enja Hamman. It's a very specific name, so I don't think you'll find a lot of different people with it. I would also recommend checking out the Sega Retro page for Hiroshi Kawaguchi. I'm in the process of writing a big section on that about his early life and his career, and some of the writing of that sort of helped me remember some details that I could say on this show. So that's good. I always
there we go.
Hey, yeah. he's got a very modern face there. Yeah, I always like every now and then writing a big article about a composer's history on Sega Retro. It's a very sort of related to Individual, but with less jokes in it. Well, maybe I could spice it up.
Probably make it a different color so people understand it's a joke.
Yeah. Oh, also go to radiosega.net and maybe check in with our Discord server. Every 2 weeks, usually, I do a playlist update that you can check out and find some new music that way, or find some better music than there ever has been before. We only play the best Sega music, only 24/7 on Radio Sega. Yeah. you remember it better than I do.
Okay, yeah. So all the links, maybe just the Blue Sky one, will be in the show notes. By the way,
too much work.
By the way, if you're listening to this or watching, we want to know. I'm sure you want to know too, Enja. What is your favorite hero soundtrack or song? We talked about a lot of games. We didn't mention all of them. I just remembered Enduro Racer. Alex Kidd the Lost Stars, that classic. My God.
Oh, yeah. With that 60s sounding soundtrack.
Rent a Hero.
Yes.
Rent a Hero is a good one. It's a classic.
With the Super Sentai song.
There you go. So many. What is your favorite one? Let us know in the comments below, or let us know on Blue Sky as well, at thesegalounge.com. what is your favorite on X, whatever, and we'll be sure to like your comment, retweet, I don't know what people reskeet. Is it what they do at Blue Sky? I repost.
I've heard that.
I think so.
But I don't say it because I'm not much of a sayer.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, I think it just. I think it just says repost, but of course
Repost. It says repost. Yes.
The community has spoken.
The cool people. Yeah. I'm not one of the
real
cool
ones.
kids. The real ones, the OGs. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you again for joining me. Thank you guys for listening or watching to this episode. We'll be back next week with something completely different. But do send your love over to Hiro and keep on the lookout for more Hiro soundtracks and songs in SEGA games. Until then, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah. The SEGA Lounge, hosted by me, KC, a Mixout Productions podcast and part of Radio SEGA's network of live shows and podcasts. Theme song and incidental music by OSC. Got any suggestions? Drop me an email to podcast@thesegalounge.com. Find us at thesegalounge.com on Blue Sky. Check out our YouTube channel for our video content and follow us on Twitch to join our Let's Play sessions and live episodes. You can find previous episodes of the show by going to thesegalounge.com on the TerraPlayer app and wherever you listen to podcasts.